Folks, I have updates. I have updates on the situation we just talked about on this channel, about Asian American discourse, about H-Mart discourse. You might remember that my most recent video, aside from a bonus video about my ethnic background, was covering H-Mart Gate, a discourse that surfaced from TikTok where a young Wasian content creator talked about side-eyeing white people at Asian grocery stores, and several Asian content creators essentially took her comments completely out of context and sent kind of a hate mob towards her that was mostly comprised of white people.
I really am a nice person, but I can't stop myself from giving snark to the white people at Asian grocery stores. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I can't stop. Like, I just side eye every time I see you there. What are you doing here? And like, arguably I could be in the right if they're like, you know, taking up space loudly in the way, but I do it even when they're not.
And we talked about assimilation as politics. We talked about irresponsibility with people's platforms. That situation has a lot of updates. But in order to talk about those updates, we should start here. Because as this has been going on, more reasons to question white people's relationship with Asianness and Asian culture have emerged. And I start with this example from these two young Asian folks, East Asian folks in the US.
My boyfriend and I are wearing our Adidas Tang Dynasty jackets, and these white teenagers came up to us after we ate dinner, started pointing at us, and then started saying ni hao, and they were just like,
what happened.
Oh my god.
So we were walking back to our car, and they were walking towards us, a huge group of white girls, and they looked at us and they were like, oh my god, ni hao, ni hao, ni hao, ni hao. And I was like, what, am I hearing this right?
I don't know, like I was like processing it because I was just like, dude, like it's kind of insane that it's happening in the Bay Area, but I was just kind of like trying to process what they were saying, and then I just started noticing that they were like bowing at us too. Like they were just like pointing, laughing, and bowing.
Guess where they were headed?
They went into a freaking boba shop. Like right after they were pointing and laughing and bowing at us and saying ni hao, they walked into a boba shop. I don't understand how you can like be blatantly racist to somebody and then go ahead and consume their culture afterwards. It makes no sense. Honestly, at the restaurant that we were eating dinner at, like complimented our jackets and asked where we got it from. But I think it's so sad because this was my first time wearing this jacket out in the States, and that was the first experience I got with it.
Oh boy. It's not like this is the first time something like this has happened. Again, the timing here is kind of interesting. And if you see the comments responding to this TikTok, H-Mart Wasian girl will always be valid. Here we go. The things I was saying. Yes, people are seeing it. That's what black people experience, and that's why we understood H-Mart situation, right? And that's why the grocery thing is valid. And this is essentially the essence of like what this problem is coming down to, right? Asian and Black American solidarity now. Handshake emoji. Everywhere in our country, but especially here in the Bay. Culture vultures who view you as subhuman is a collective problem. Let's not do this alone, right? They're going to start saying boba is white now, like what they did with matcha. And this is exactly what I was talking about when I was defending Madeline, the original content creator from the H-Mart Gate scandal. Obviously, there are reasons to feel uncomfortable or suspicious of white people's participations in monoethnic Asian spaces, being in Asian grocery stores. And she was so clear, right? She was crystal clear about how she was encouraging white people to go into Asian grocery stores, encouraging everybody to support local Asian businesses, saying that she's the problem, calling herself a bitch, right? And yet, these other East Asian content creators took her video and used it to suggest that she was advocating for segregation, that she was telling people not to go into Asian grocery stores, and then questioning her Asianness. It was actually quite disgusting. And seeing this justice is actually really heartening. And part of it comes from, interacting with the reality around you, especially hello in MAGA era, right? We're in 2025. And this is the time period where you want to be talking about coddling white people at Asian grocery stores, hanging around them, making sure that they know what they're buying. As Ed and Soogia, the content creators responding to Madeline, were saying, this is the time period wherein you want to be attacking a Asian content creator for saying, I don't know, I feel uncomfortable with white people in these spaces. After all this history that we have of East Asian spaces, East Asian culture, East Asian food becoming popularized and also becoming trendy, having the culture and the history and the integrity of it be dismissed, and then disrespected through the use of terminology like sushi face, which implies that the sodium retention you get in your face might come from sushi instead of, the salty food that white people eat outside of that, meaning everything. It's just wild, right? And this is something that I was talking about with regards to how black people are seeing this dynamic play out and responding to it. I mentioned in my video, I was like, look, some people, a content creator who I like, I didn't mention them, I didn't say their name or show their video, said, this is Asian business, let Asian people discuss this, don't be all in Asian spaces talking about this. But I pretty firmly disagreed with that, especially in the case of black folks, because black folks get this, whether it's the black diaspora internationally, whether it's African folks, Caribbean folks, or whether it's black Americans. They understand the colonial history and how it ties into white interaction with black culture. They understand that white people will participate in your culture while still not respecting you. That even when you can't see it clearly, when it's not overt or it's not direct, white people will be disrespectful in these spaces. And that's not to say we shun them from these spaces, but that we gatekeep them to the degree that we create a sense of unified questioning of white people's motives. We make it a little bit uncomfortable for white people so that they know that we're not just here to have our culture be taken and exploited. And this is kind of exactly what played out. I have to give so much credit to Nelly because she was the one who really put me onto this story and put me onto this dynamic in particular, pointing out, black commenters who were like, as a black person, Madeline, I totally understand what you're saying. I totally understand why you would side-eye people at an Asian grocery store. I'm actually pissed that all these other Asian folks are undermining your experience. And we saw that play out more and more on TikTok. So here's one example of a TikToker acknowledging this.
To add, why is it that every black person on my For You page who is commenting on the side-eyeing or not side-eyeing white people in H-Mart, they get it like that, like what's going on and why that's a thing. But like there's fully grown Asian creators who are like super defensive of white people for some reason. Also, you could interpret this discourse as a different thing, which is, are Wasians Asian? Or are they just viewed as like half people?
Whole other conversation. But you see viral TikToks of Asian people acknowledging the black folks that commented on this were right. The Asian folks were wrong, by and large. They were defending white people in this situation. You saw other black folks, other black content creators, commentators chiming in with these points.
That H-Mart situation is crazy because y'all dad got on this app, twisted that lady's words, and called her wrong for what she said. And she was not wrong. As a black man in America, I completely understood what she was saying. Because growing up, all you heard was negative stereotypes from white people about the Asian culture, the black culture, the Mexican culture, and etc. But then you turn around and you see them indulge in that stereotype. So yeah, I completely understand what she's talking about. I'll even give you some examples. Growing up, all you heard was black people love fried chicken, but white people love it the most. Raising Cane's, KFC, Chick-fil-A, go to all these places. They are dominated by mostly white people. So yeah, when I go to these places, I give them a side eye because all my life, all I heard was black people love fried chicken, but all I see is white people in these establishments. I also lived in the red state, Missouri for 2 years. I was staying in Columbia and working in Jefferson City, and I don't think you can find a black man that stays in Jefferson City. Them about the two whitest cities in Missouri. And my whole time there, all you heard was, oh, we're going to build that wall. We're going to make sure these Mexicans get out of our country and stay out of our country. But those people, they love Mexican food. I swear to you, if you go to any Mexican restaurant, it's always packed, and it's packed with not Mexican, not black, not Asian. It's always packed with white people. So yeah, you tell.
Of course you're going to, as a Mexican person, side-eye a white person in a Mexican grocery store, maybe involuntarily, maybe not as a habit, but you're going to have that feeling of discomfort in your mind. You're going to have that feeling of, okay, are you another one of these people, another one of these Republicans, another one of these liberals, frankly, that has no real respect for my culture, maybe thinks you're one of the good ones, but ultimately fetishizes this stuff, right? Charlie Kelly in the chat, I do research on Asian American studies. Many of the works in this field are built on black liberation theories and praxis. Don't let the racial triangulation divide us. Excellent point. The reason why black people get this is because anti-blackness has covered this. Studying anti-blackness has analyzed this. Theories of racism, theories of anti-blackness, all the conversations about racism in black media and black culture have for a very long time highlighted the exploitation inherent to white consumption of black media, black culture, black goods, right? Hip-hop is the prime example. And of course, Asian people are often the perpetrators of this as well, often the ones who are appropriating it, exploiting it, as is often the case in K-pop, as is often the case in China, etc. No respect for the original peoples, the original cultures, the history, the politics behind it, but all the smoke, right? All of the smoke for other Asian people who do not want to assimilate. Why? Because it's that seat at the table. It's that anti-blackness inherent to assimilationism, right? It is simultaneously the feeling that many Asian immigrants who are often from middle-class backgrounds have grown up with this socialization that they should try to be more acceptable, that they should try to be more popular, that they should try to maintain more power within this white supremacist system. And so they socialize themselves to be welcoming towards white participation and are given no filter to understand when it's exploitative, okay? And simultaneously, the fact that East Asian Americans, Asian Americans themselves are anti-black. There are huge anti-blackness problems within these communities. We see that with K-pop. We see it in America too. We see the amount of Asian people on the street in Astoria will say the N-word more than black people will. That's a reality. And of course, the imitation, the appropriation of black culture. These are all things that the Asian community has been very guilty of, okay? So simultaneously, those things happen, and that means you have no lens, no filter through which to understand the many forms racism takes. Maybe, in the case of some of these content creators we're about to revisit, you might be able to point out when it's messed up that a white guy says something racist to an Asian person, makes fun of Asian food, makes fun of Asian people's eyes. You can go, oh, yo, that's really bad. You can adjust to, you can identify that bare minimum, that surface level, very obvious racism. But you've disregarded the fundamentally black insight, the fundamentally black American, oftentimes, insight that racism proliferates in many ways, and that they get you with all different forms of oppression. They get you with all types of tricks. Asian people don't think they're getting tricked because they don't take black people seriously. They don't take black people's insights seriously. This is not the only example of this. Amazing work by some of these black content creators talking about H-Mart gate.
I don't mean to be in Asian folks' business, but this whole the Wasian H-Mart thing, I know y'all ain't talking. What I'm gonna do is give an example of why I understand what she was saying. Now, mind you, despite this jacket I'm wearing right now, I graduated from an HBCU. Now, my HBCU wasn't the most well-funded. It wasn't the biggest HBCU, especially not the biggest one in our state. It's a small-ass campus, and everybody see just about everybody 5 times a day, right? And being at an HBCU, we know that this is a black space, right? HBCUs were created specifically out of racism because black people had certain boundaries when it came to education, right? And to this day, it's still a very important thing in our infrastructure, right? Now, as a black person that grew up around white people, I very commonly heard y'all talking about how Asian food stink, how weird Asian food is, how they eat fish eyeballs and how they eat like all this weird stuff and stuff. Like growing up, I even remember, I kid you not, I think it might have been the Joy Luck Club, but there is this short story I read, I think it was from the Joy Luck Club, where the girl she's having, like, I think she's having either her friend over or their pastor over. Her family is Asian, I believe, ethnically Chinese, but I'm not sure. Anyway, they present this very traditional food, and she's very conscious because these people are not of the same ethnicity to her. I believe they were white. And I remember there was this conversation about either the fish head or the fish eye, and how it was in her culture, it was very like a delectable piece of meat. How she was so worried about what these people would think about like her food and think it was disgusting and have like all these like negative comments to say, right? So if I'm an Asian person, right? And I'm going to my local Asian like grocery store, and yes, she is Asian, you guys. She's half white, half Asian. I don't know if you guys know this, but two truths can exist in the world together. You can be black and white at the same time.
I love what this person is saying, and I love that part of the insight as well, because a lot of this became about Wasianness, right? I saw another really good piece of content from a Haitian content creator saying the same thing, right? At the end of the day, black people got immediately, especially through some of the discourses that Asian people have put forward, why an Asian person, Wasian or otherwise, would feel uncomfortable or suspicious or downright distrusting of white people in their grocery stores. But this pissed off a lot of the assimilationists, right? This pissed off a lot of people who have been so used to the idea that the best thing that you can be is accepted, that the best thing that you can be is integrated, that the best thing that you can do is have white people love your food. And so this is the kind of thing that I actually really enjoyed about this discourse, was just seeing the large disparity and like the immediacy with which Black American and Black content creators understood this. And it actually became kind of a thing on TikTok of like Black people being like, I'm in Asian people's business, right? This one person made me laugh a lot.
So I found myself in Asian people business, and this is what the fuck I found out. So first and foremost, they real pissed about that matcha shit. They don't like that we be drinking that shit. Well, I don't be drinking matcha, but they don't like that everybody be drinking matcha. They feel as if y'all done wore that shit the fuck out. They don't like that they can't find no matcha. It's a shortage in that shit. And they don't like that y'all raise the prices on them fucking that matcha. They really holding a grudge against us about that shit, for real.
So this is like a content creator named Unpopular Princess who has done like several of these.
Okay, so I just got finished talking to my cousins and look, I'm still in Asian people business. Look, this is what's going the fuck on.
And I think it's kind of funny because it's like, honestly, please do get involved in our business. Because the folks that we have supposed to have been entrusted with coming forward with the right analysis, the right insights, with the context, with the experience, the wisdom, are not offering it. And a lot of that is because of that internalized anti-blackness. If you have really studied discourses about anti-blackness, then this thing would have sunk in very quickly. Now, I want to talk about the content creators at play who weren't so quick to understand it. In particular, one of the content creators we talked about was someone named Soogia. Soogia is a Korean American content creator who made a very angry, not let's say angry, but very dismissive and kind of disgusted response to Madeline's video about side-eyeing people at H-Mart, saying, don't do that. This is actually super wrong. We should never make other people uncomfortable in our spaces. As a matter of fact, I linger around to make sure that if a person who is non-Asian is in there looking at food, to make sure that they know that what's going on, that they might get a helping hand from me, right? And I think that her response initially was kind of telling. So we also talked about this content creator, Princess Paul. Princess Paul has been on it. And when Soogia posted finally, after a couple of weeks now, her response to the discourse, her apology to Madeline, which, glad she apologized, but it wasn't really a full apology, okay? It wasn't really a full apology. So I'm going to play a little bit of this reaction that shows some of the clips, because Soogia has since taken this video down.
In my belief that we should treat people for, who they are, not what they are. And I think that curiosity should be met with guidance and not with shame. And I know that I'm an old bird, but I still want to learn things, and I still want to, understand things on a level that is, outside of just whatever my perspective is. And sure, my platform, I most likely will continue to talk shit about people who are, behaving like a bunch of assholes. But I have to still hold on to the belief that, we can bring people together. And I love to think that food is a great way to...
This was the apology that Soogia just issued on her page in response to the side-eyeing H-Mart gate incident. And I loosely use the term apology because I don't consider this an apology. I know she's trying to rationalize her thinking and explain nuance to people who might have missed it. And she's speaking as a mother, so I'm going to speak as a son. Because I do think that I have conversations, and I had mentioned before that this is a generational issue. And I understand when my parents say that as Asians coming to this country and we're foreigners and we have been treated poorly in the past, that it might seem like the best option for us to assimilate and be extra welcoming to white people. That seems to be the stance that a lot of older creators, especially Korean creators, have on this app because they think that that's going to get us somewhere. When in reality, just a couple years ago, what did we see during COVID? Soogia's content exists as a very quick cathartic release for a lot of white people to see that, oh, as long as I'm not this type of white person, the one that goes into a restaurant and says my food is stinky or Asian food is stinky, or they go into a grocery store and start making fun of the labels, then I'm okay. I'm a clear, good white person. And what I don't understand is that in this apology, there's no mention of the consequences of her platform. She doesn't address the various videos that white people made in response to that incident, where they purposely went to H-Mart to make a nuisance of themselves and to invade a space that they previously had no interest in.
You're hearing this correctly. People made in response to Soogia's viral critique of Madeline, as well as other content creators' dismissal of Madeline's experience. They made videos, white people made videos going into H-Mart and other Asian grocery stores. Like, oh, I'm going to try to make somebody side-eye me. These are the consequences, right? And again, Soogia did not address that in the initial response, which is why she deleted it, right? She did not address that in the initial apology to Madeline. She focused her apology towards Madeline as, I got my feelings hurt because you're Wasian and I have Wasian daughters and I have one daughter who presents as white, and to think about her being excluded and a store that's supposed to be for her own culture really hurts my heart. And I really wish that she would have kept it up. I should have saved it because I just found that really kind of telling. You're apologizing to Madeline for, dismissing her experience, but you're not apologizing to her for taking her comments completely out of context, for removing important context that she said in her video, for removing the many times that she said, I encourage people of all races to go to Asian grocery stores, the many times where she called herself a bitch, right? You removed all that and painted her out to be this person who is bullying or encouraging bullying towards white folks in Asian grocery stores. And all that you caused was for white people to feel emboldened to essentially bully people who are Asian in Asian grocery stores. And then you center it on the Wasian-ness of it kind of triggered me because you have a white husband and Wasian kids. I mean, the mindfuck of that is really funny. But in particular, that doesn't tell me that you're preparing your children very well, because being white passing gives you a firsthand experience into how you will be treated differently than someone who's not white passing, right? And you should be educated firmly on that and understand why, after all these histories of colonialism and the current imperial dynamics that play out today, why Asian people would be side-eyeing you. And you should be able to know how to navigate that awkward situation, which is not tantamount to segregation at all. But instead, you use this as license to bully someone who is in essence in the same position as your daughter. Almost like you saw your daughter in her and got triggered and angry and decided to reprimand your own daughter. We don't do that. We don't bully white people at Asian grocery stores. Mind you, all she was saying is I side-eyed them, right? And so I thought that response was really telling. And I understand it's hard to apologize on the internet. But she started that video saying, I know that the internet is the death of nuance. And I just felt like it was still defensive. And I felt like ultimately, even though it takes some level of courage to reflect and not just react purely out of anger and to offer an apology to the creator, if you're not apologizing for the tangible damage that you caused to that creator, then I'm sorry, it's not really a real apology, is it? You're apologizing for caring too much, essentially. You're apologizing for being a little too sensitive. That's like, Hillary Clinton saying her worst characteristic is that she cares too much. That's essentially what that's giving. And I want to show you what Madeline's response was, because I'm living for it, okay? Madeline posted a video right after Soogia's first apology. Okay, I had to pause it there because that's copyrighted music. Speaking of which, JoJo's Too Little Too Late is one of the best songs of the 2000s on every level. I don't care. I am not a defender of 2000s and 2010s pop music, but that is a genuinely great pop song. But yeah, taking a bit of pride, right? And taking a little bit of you know what? Screw this. You're going to sit here and say, I apologize 2 weeks after you were part and parcel of a viral moment on the internet that caused people to bully me, to dox me. Yes, dox. There were people that doxed Madeline because of this. There were people that harassed Madeline because of this. You saw the nasty comments left under Madeline's video because of this. And some of the comments that were bullying her under Soogia's video, which Soogia upvoted. Okay? And now you want to come online and be like, I'm sorry that I discounted your experience. It's just that I have Wasian daughters and I care so much about cultural exchange. The cultural exchange you need to be participating in, ironically, is the one with Black Americans that teaches you about solidarity and teaches you about how people understand white supremacy and how it affects them. The solidarity of cultural exchange that teaches you about how white people consume cultures in exploitative manners and the various dimensions that takes on. That should have been the cultural exchange here, not, no, let white people buy sushi. Like, I'm stunned. And I'm glad that you guys, agree with my take about JoJo. Another content creator has built up a bit of a platform talking about this, and I've loved what she's had to say. Her name is Dr. Jia. This was her response to Soogia's video.
Madeline got doxxed. She had to leave the internet for a week, and then after she came back, every single video on her page is flooded with hate comments. People are straight up hating on her for being half Asian, all throughout her comment section, when there shouldn't have been any drama in the first place. Soogia, Ed, and Korean Vegan basically sicked like 5 million people onto this poor girl just for having feelings about these people coming into Asian spaces. And only one of them has issued an apology, but that hasn't stopped or undone anything that has happened to Madeline over the past week or two. A real apology would look like, hey, how can I compensate you with my time, labor, and money to undo the harm that I have caused you and your family?
And I want to emphasize here also Korean Vegan's role, because if you'll recall from that original video, Korean Vegan, Joanne Molinaro, who usually makes commentary about social cultural discourse when it comes to food and politics, made a video saying that Madeline's take was disgusting. That her saying, oh, I side-eye people at H-Mart is disgusting. Even though Madeline, again, encouraged people to go into Asian grocery stores. It was mind-boggling. And then the Korean Vegan had the nerve to say, in this political climate, when millions of people in America are having their SNAP benefits threatened, you're going to police people in grocery stores? Utterly absurd take, especially because, and I didn't even mention this in the original video explicitly, her video came out way before the SNAP benefits were threatened, that government shutdown. The original video Madeline made was in early September, like September 2nd. The videos that were made by these Asian content creators came out 2 months later. And Korean Vegan, how dare you, essentially in a time period like this. Baffling. And then there's Ed, who was honestly the first culprit, the person who opened these floodgates, who made that initial video undermining and shitting on Madeline's take. Because we've all been foreigners before. I mean, come on. The level of race blindness, color blindness, the lack of understanding of critical race theory, the anti-blackness that proliferates that kind of thing, that creates that kind of issue. I use the word proliferate again. It's just baffling. The idea that, oh yeah, me being a Korean person in a Mexican grocery store feeling confused, and the vendor, the store worker / owner, saying, hey, do you need help with anything? That's the same thing as a white person being in an Asian grocery store. The same thing as a white person being in an Asian grocery store and getting side-eyed. Or the same thing as a white person being in an Asian grocery store and me, Ed, being like, hey, how can I help you out? Just bizarre. Like colonialism just doesn't exist at all. Right? And so Princess Paul, rightfully came at Ed as well. I'll show this and then I'll talk about Soogia's eventual second apology.
I go to the Korean grocery store and I see non-Korean people that look like a fish out of water and look anxious just like I do. I go up and I ask them if they need help. In fact, it's almost always in front of the same places, in front of the meat counter.
If you thought that I was going to just make a video solely on Soogia and not mention her sidekick, you would be wrong. I'm an equal opportunity hater, so when I see opportunity to hate, I will hate. Now, if you know anything about Ed and Soogia, you'll know that they both are peas in a pod. They rode this wave where they realized that if they produce entry-level activism, very easy, cathartic, low-level calling out of white people, that there is an audience to consume that type of content. And they have ridden that for many years under the guise of being for the people, being for Asian people, meanwhile cultivating a majority white audience.
Ed has a section, a category of videos on his TikTok called Fight the Power. Fight the Power. And this is how he responds to a Wasian Gen Zer, saying, yeah, I side-eye white people at the Asian grocery store sometimes. I know I shouldn't do it. I want everybody to come to Asian grocery stores. And he responds by essentially saying she's a racist. Yeah, all lives matter ass argument. Exactly, not from Monaco. It was just baffling, and I was very upset. I was laughing a lot too. We had a good time, but I was really incensed at these content creators who still have not properly apologized to this day, up until what we were about to watch from Soogia. And I want you guys to evaluate with me as I react to this in real time, whether you think this was a proper response. This is her second attempt at apologizing to Madeline.
Yeah, but I want you to know, well, it has been a day and it is not even 1 o'clock in the afternoon yet, but I want you to know that I really am committed to learning, and I'm really committed to listening to the voices of people who are straight up calling me out for the things that I'm saying, the things that I'm doing, and I really am taking these things in. And I've watched some videos of people who have, reacted to, what's been going on. And the first video that I saw was of a woman named Yuki, and Yuki is also the mother of a mixed race child. And Yuki, you really shifted my perspective. In your video, you're talking about how in the scenario with Madeline, I put my daughter in the situation as the other person receiving the side eye from another Wasian person. And, from that perspective, I'm like, how dare you, judge my daughter and determine whether or not she's Asian enough to be here, based on how she looks, which is, its own thing. But then you said, now look at it from the perspective of Madeline's mother. And I'm paraphrasing all of these things, or at least this is kind of what I took from it. And if you were Madeline's mother and you saw some random fucking Asian lady on the internet with 2.5 million followers telling your daughter how she should act and how she should feel, what would that do to you? And that struck me like a bolt of fucking lightning.
Look, I appreciate that she's saying, like, I'm listening and learning, and this was a big perspective shift, but, I'm surprised it wasn't thought of sooner, because it's also just internet etiquette to be like, hey, I should be careful how I respond to this smaller content creator who's younger than me noticeably, who is also a person of color just like me. Let me be thoughtful about how I respond to them, because I don't want to make them out as a certain type of person to get jumped on the internet by all these white people, right?
It was really like it really hit me, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I didn't see it. I can't believe I didn't see it. I can't believe I didn't think about that. It wasn't just invalidating, what Madeline has gone through, but for me to have, the fucking audacity to tell somebody how they should feel about their own life in the space that they should feel comfortable is like, I need to take a step back. I need to take a step back. And I really want to take the time to thank you, for offering that perspective to me. And there was another creator, his name is Princess Paul. And you talked about a few different things. A couple of things that I want to touch on was, me not taking accountability for the right thing, and just being vague about it. And he's right. Creating a safe space for white people to descend upon another person of color, to invalidate their experience, to be racist to them, to, cause harm to them in this way was unacceptable. And again, I am really sorry for that. And I'm going to be working on that on my platform and within myself, because I don't ever want that to happen again. I really don't ever want that to happen again. I talked about something that was really interesting to me in regards to how different generations have treated, this situation. And my parents, who came here in the late 60s, were like, stay quiet, don't cause any problems, don't bring any attention to these things. And that was a mechanism for safety. For us to be safe, we got to shut the fuck up. And me growing up, having all of these feelings and constantly being told to be small and to be quiet, I was like, no, fuck that. And so I thought that doing what I'm doing was a good way to show people how, these behaviors affect other people. And I like to think to some degree, I've done some good work in that regard. Or am I really? Am I really just creating a new and different kind of safe space for white people to feel comfortable? Again, I don't know. I'm really trying to work through that. But what?
I'll stop it there. Again, I understand it's a very difficult thing to process these things on the internet. You have so many people scrutinizing you. Sometimes they're even going to be out of pocket. I know it's hard to watch videos of people saying that you're a piece of shit, or calling you out, and then having all these upvotes and comments, right? Which, imagine how Madeline feels, right? But I appreciate her taking the time, even after the first apology, which, was kind of a non-apology, to be like, okay, let me address specific criticisms, let me say what I missed, etc. There is more she can do and should do, in my opinion. And that's not me saying that to be like, burn the witch. That's me saying that to be like, I'm really concerned about Madeline and about what precedent this sets, Because there's still people in her comment section that are like, you know, you got nothing to worry about. I'm disappointed that you're backing down. There's nothing wrong with people from other ethnicities trying our cultural food, as if that was the real problem, right? We also we can see who's in the comment sections, who showed up, watching y'all family argue from across the street for my black folks. But another thing is just that at least Soogia is kind of trying, which is not to make an excuse, but to compare it or contrast it with, at this juncture, because I haven't checked their channels in a couple hours, Ed and Korean Vegan not saying anything, which it's already been so long. It took too long for Soogia to say something. It's definitely taken too long for them. I think Soogia should be renouncing, first of all, the distortion of Madeline's words, because there was still no acknowledgement that it's like, okay, Madeline, you said this is a problem I'm working through, and I encourage people to go to Asian grocery stores, white or not. You still never really acknowledged that. I also think you should be calling out the other two people that you did this with, right? Maybe that's too controversial, but at the very least reaching out to them or mentioning this overall pattern that you contributed to, wherein you and multiple other Asian creators essentially ganged on this younger Asian creator, saying things that she didn't say, like saying she said things she didn't say, and figure out a way that you can actually atone for what you did materially. I'm not saying send her $1,000 or something. It's not really money that could compensate for that kind of thing, although, you know, depends on what kind of money we're talking about. But how can you guys come together to help Madeline? Can you also, lastly, realize not only that you made those mistakes in your messaging, but then work the other way to be like, you know what? I'm hearing from all these Black Americans and Asian Americans saying there is extremely valid reason to be working on like side-eyeing white people in these spaces. It's extremely, we have to have a conversation about how white people interact with our food outside of just the obvious disrespecters, the obvious racists. Are you going to have that conversation then to be like, you know what, guys, I was wrong about H-Mart Gate. I was wrong about H-Mart Gate. People are right to be side-eyeing white people in grocery stores. Are you gonna take the step to actually say that and cite, you know, the critical race theory or the experience, the lived experience and the wisdom from Black people who have chimed in? Are you going to cite their work and their videos to say, hey, we should be learning from Black Americans here? For too long, we have not accepted a struggle that is shared with Black Americans. We have been too naive to racism, thinking it's just a personal problem, an interaction problem, an interpersonal problem, and tried to operate from the standpoint of race blindness without having more systemic understandings of how these mechanisms, right? These ways in which white people exploit Asian culture and Asian food become more and more popular. Like the ways in which this thing is encouraged and the ways in which that I was a part of it. Am I now going to stand against it? Am I now going to say, hey, white people, actually, I was wrong. Y'all need to like really reevaluate how you interact in grocery stores, right? Really reevaluate with your entitlement of towards other cultures' foods and other cultures' cultural products, especially in this time period. What time period could be better to talk about it than 2025? So those are some things that I'm going to add here. I want to kind of conclude this by pointing out how this insight from Black Americans is now becoming this liberatory tool for Asian folks to understand their racism from a whole different way. I mean, not to say that the content creators I'm about to show you are new to this, but the popularity being driven towards them indicates that this is something that's a kind of awakening for a lot of Asian people. Asian people realizing certain things that Black people have been saying, and other people of color, indigenous people have been saying from time. And I want to start with this video from Andy Trust, where he talks about another dynamic, again, that plays out very similarly, but this time it's about desirability.
100% your look, Connie baby.
You boys?
Okay, I'm gonna run that back. I'm gonna run that one back. This is a TikTok by a white woman. And the eyes widening and the lip bite, okay, as if to be like, ooh, yummy, the Asian boy. Again, Black people, I think you understand where we're going here ahead of where certain Asian people might understand it, which is to say, If a white woman content creator made a video when you link up with the black guy, what kind of histories would that be playing into? What kind of power dynamics would be at play there? Because, as Andy Trust is about to show you, a lot of Asian guys still don't get that this is not actually a win at all.
You boys will never learn. Here's the issue with videos like this. Well, there's actually more than one, but the biggest issue with videos like this that pander to Asian men is that the comment section is the saddest collection of down bad Asian dudes you will ever see. Just gathering around begging for a scrap of validation. Wait, white girls like Asians now? I'm here. Oh, hi. Hi, LOL. I'm here for the Asian appreciation generation. It's finally our turn.
Oh no. You guys look so bad, bro. This is so bad. Oh man. There's a lot of conversations that have been had over the past decade or so. I think it started with the Tinder discourse. If you'll recall, it was the discourse about, oh, Asian men are the most swiped left on Tinder or whatever. Or swiped right? I don't remember which one it is. They're the most rejected on dating apps. And like, yeah, let's have a conversation about the, emasculation of Asian men and desirability politics and white beauty standards. I love analyzing beauty standards. But a lot of Asian guys took that as like, yeah, we're just trying to make it. We're just trying to have that recognition. We're trying to be valued on that dating market. We're attractive too. And I just don't know how else to say it because I've become so far from this now. Not to gas myself up, but I just found myself so baffled by this now. First of all, this is fetishization. You being evaluated as attractive on behalf of your ethnic background is fetishization. It's just benevolent racism, quote unquote. Along the same lines as, somebody microaggressing against black and brown people in the workplace by talking to them with this extra friendly and a bit cultured tone. Or, black people being accepted into friend groups to diversify the friend group, which makes them tokens, right? This is basically tokenization with a fetishized standpoint. And there's a lot of conversations to be had about K-pop and anime and J media and C media that has, brought a lot of good things perhaps in terms of representation. A lot of it is good content, good media, good art. But a lot of it has contributed to a type of commoditization of Asian men. Ooh, I got this little K-pop boy. And listen, I've been there. I've been on dating apps and I've noticed that the people that would, want to swipe right or whatever would be often people who listen to K-pop. It's a very uncomfortable reality that we have to live with, right? And I think putting it in this direction makes it seem like, okay, well, it's less fetishizing because it's not effeminizing the Asian man. It's making him feel like he's sexy just like the white man is. But it's still distinguishing the Asian man as being something attractive on behalf of its exotic quality or on behalf of its ethnic background. You shouldn't want somebody to be attracted to you because you're Asian. You should want somebody to be attracted to you because of who you are. And that's wild for me to be saying out loud in 2025. It's wild that there's a lot of guys who don't get it. But there are. These are the same guys who don't understand anti-blackness, right? I guarantee it. Because if they did, they would understand how the fetishization of black men, for instance, is a classic racist tactic that separates their agency, that sexualizes black men, and that portends or performs a sense of inclusion while still only including on behalf of the asset, the value that person of that ethnic background provides. Yeah, I date black men because they're so hot. I made a video a long time ago on my main channel, this channel I'm streaming on, about dating preferences. And dating preferences on behalf of race have always been weird. We were normalized with them. I understand it. A lot of y'all grew up with those things being normalized, but in 2025, we should just be able to say that very, very ardently. Okay? I didn't even finish the video. I'm just gonna rewind it back.
Gathering around begging for a scrap of validation. Wait, white girls like Asians now? I'm here. Oh, hi. Hi, LOL. I'm here for the Asian appreciation generation. It's finally our turn. Thanks for the recognition. Us Asian boys are on a roll right now. Shout out to the Dodgers. Queen. The algorithm has blessed me with this content. Wait. What? Us? Jungle Asian or yellow Asian? Y'all need to stand up. Is there a problem with her finding an Asian man attractive? No, obviously not. But if that attraction is based on some sweeping generalization of an entire demographic, then yeah, it's problematic. You can call it a preference all you want, it's the same thing. Also, this is such obvious engagement bait, it's just disappointing that these dudes can't see right through it.
It is engagement bait too, right? A classic thing that gets white people ahead in terms of their social media presence is by pandering to specific ethnic background audiences. It's a very bad faith version of, you know, speaking to a global audience where you say, Asian boys, am I right? So that you can get the Asian boys in your comment section going, yeah, we're great. They're so behind, you know? It's just sad. It's sad how many Asian people are behind because they didn't take racism at that level seriously. And I think, you know, again, I bring this up because you're seeing now Asian content creators who are like, you know what, let's have this conversation, because these critical race theory ideas, just like that commenter said about Asian American studies, are actually foundational to understanding things that happen to us, ways that we're dominated, ways that we're oppressed. So for instance, the Asian house servant mentality, right? Which relates to what I was talking about with those content creators and they're pining for white approval in attacking this Asian content creator for side-eyeing, for daring to side-eye white people in grocery stores. Or this one, Pick Miko. This is another video about Dr.
Having a white
John.
boyfriend is not by itself Pick Miko. Yes, Pick Miko is my term for...
Pick Miko is such a funny term. This has been a derivation of like Pick Misha. You might have heard as a term within black communities. She's like, well, what about Pick Miko? Well, let's say Pick Miko for Asian women who do the same thing in terms of pandering for the male gaze and, you know, especially the white male gaze. An Asian woman pick me. This is the kind of thing, right, that you get to understand when you don't see racism against black people as this aberration or as something that is justifiable or something to not take particularly seriously. And in fact, when you take it as something that is a lens through which to understand the world, to understand colonization and capitalism, which oppresses all of us. And I'm really glad to see content creators make this kind of content, okay? And I think it's summarized especially by this last TikTok that I'll show you from someone named Asher, who brings it all home in terms of why it is that we've taken so long, I'm not gonna say we, why Asians have taken so long to embrace these critical race theory concepts, which were pioneered by black people.
Dear Asian people, please stop being so racist and anti-black all the time. When we seek white acceptance, we're being anti-black. You know what black people are saying about the whole H-Mart controversy? They're sitting this one out. They're eating popcorn and watching us because they're tired of helping us. Black people have been saying this shit for years. Everyone, including Asian people, have been appropriating black culture far longer and more insidiously than any other group. How are we going to expect black people to be in solidarity with us when we're still so anti-black and crave proximity to whiteness? Asians are where we are today because black and indigenous people fought for our civil rights, yet y'all still want to sit at the white people's table. Asians are still doing shit like feeding into the model minority myth, and a lot of y'all are still obsessed with chasing after wealth or prestige using the same systems that have exploited black people for generations. And just because you went to a good school, landed a corporate job, or assimilated into white culture doesn't mean you can become politically apathetic and throw under the bus all the black activists and organizers who have fought tirelessly so you can enjoy the rights that you have today. Asians, please stop being so complicit in white supremacy. It's embarrassing. If we want to advance Asian American rights, we have to fight against white supremacy alongside black and brown people.
That's the big thing. It's not about singling out cases of racism against East Asians and going, oh, Asian lives matter, or about, you know, talking about anti-Asian racism as the silent racism, or talking about, you know, wanting to you know, take down affirmative action and programs that encourage diversity in college campuses, that encourage diversity in college entrances, instead of just taking out other ethnic groups to make sure we solidify what we have, which never works. We should learn a thing or two about solidarity with black and indigenous people, as Asher points out, in a time period in which the US was imperializing all these other parts of the world. And so it's just kind of sad that it took this long, but I'm really glad that we got here, because a lot of great insights are being put forward, and hopefully this momentum can keep up. There's no way we're going to be able to deal with the rise of xenophobia hatred of Chinese people in the midst of this Cold War against China by the United States. There's no way we're going to be able to deal with, the current realities of imperialism if we are still so ignorant to the decades-long works of scholarship about anti-Black racism. If we are still not hip to the insights of Walter Rodney, the insights of Angela Davis, the insights of countless Black scholars and activists and revolutionaries around the world, the insights of the Black Panthers. Until we get there, and until we understand how socialism, how fighting for us to own the means of our production factors into that, and maintaining that sensitivity and that understanding of how caste systems perpetuate hate of all people of different backgrounds, and how it plays in with patriarchy, which are huge problems in East Asian countries, how it plays in with, regular caste systems and capitalism that are huge issues across Asia, right? If we're not able to do all that work to understand anything outside of Asian guy was discriminated against, then we'll have nothing to offer that Asian guy who was discriminated against. That's the reality.